Welcome to this daily PBJ devotional. Read 1 Samuel 7 and 8, Ezekiel 19, and Ephesians 6. This devotional is about 1 Samuel 7 and 8. Then the men of Kiriath-Jearim came for the ark of the Lord, and took it into Abinadab's house on the hill. And they consecrated his son Eleazar to guard the ark of the Lord. And from that day a long time passed, 20 years in all, as the ark remained in Kiriath-Jearim, and all the house of Israel mournfully sought the Lord. Then Samuel said to all the house of Israel, If you are returning to the Lord with all your hearts, then put away the foreign gods and Ashtaroths among you. Prepare your hearts for the Lord, and serve him only, and he will deliver you from the hand of the Philistines. So the Israelites put away the Baals and Ashtaroths, and served only the Lord. Then Samuel said, Gather all Israel to Mizpah, and I will pray to the Lord on your behalf. When they gathered at Mizpah, they drew water and poured it out before the Lord. On that day they fasted, and there they confessed, We have sinned against the Lord. And Samuel judged the Israelites at Mizpah. When the Philistines heard that the Israelites had gathered at Mizpah, their rulers marched up toward Israel. And when the Israelites learned of this, they feared the Philistines and said to Samuel, Do not stop crying out to the Lord our God for us, that he may save us from the hand of the Philistines. Then Samuel took a suckling lamb and offered it as a whole burnt offering to the Lord. He cried out to the Lord on behalf of Israel, and the Lord answered him. As the Philistines drew near to fight against Israel, Samuel was offering up the burnt offering. But that day the Lord thundered loudly against the Philistines, and threw them into such confusion that they fled before Israel. Then the men of Israel charged out of Mizpah, and pursued the Philistines, striking them down all the way to an area below Beth-kar. Afterward, Samuel took a stone and set it up between Mizpah and Shen. He named it Ebenezer, saying, Thus far the Lord has helped us. So the Philistines were subdued, and they stopped invading the territory of Israel. And the hand of the Lord was against the Philistines all the days of Samuel. The cities from Ekron to Gath, which the Philistines had taken, were restored to Israel, who also delivered the surrounding territory from the hand of the Philistines. And there was peace between the Israelites and the Amorites. So Samuel judged Israel all the days of his life. Every year he would go on a circuit from Bethel to Gilgal to Mizpah, judging Israel in all these places. Then he would return to Ramah, because his home was there, and there he judged Israel and built an altar to the Lord. 1 Samuel 8. When Samuel grew old, he appointed his sons as judges over Israel. The name of his firstborn son was Joel, and the name of his second was Abijah. They were judges in Beersheba. But his sons did not walk in his ways. They turned aside toward dishonest gain, accepting bribes and perverting justice. So all the elders of Israel gathered together and came to Samuel at Ramah. Look, they said, you are old, and your sons do not walk in your ways. Now appoint a king to judge us like all the other nations. But when they said, Give us a king to judge us, their demand was displeasing in the sight of Samuel. So he prayed to the Lord. And the Lord said to Samuel, Listen to the voice of the people in all that they say to you, for it is not you they have rejected, but they have rejected me as their king. Just as they have done from the day I brought them out of Egypt until this day, forsaking me and serving other gods, so they are doing to you. Now listen to their voice, but you must solemnly warn them and show them the manner of the king who will reign over them. So Samuel spoke all the words of the Lord to the people who were asking him for a king. He said, This will be the manner of the king who will reign over you. He will take your sons and appoint them to serve his own chariots and horses, and to run in front of his chariots. He will appoint some for himself as commanders of thousands and of 50s, and others to plow his ground, to reap his harvest, and to make his weapons of war and equipment for his chariots. And he will take your daughters to be perfumers, cooks, and bakers. He will take the best of your fields and vineyards and olive groves and give them to his servants. He will take a tenth of your grain and grape harvest, and give it to his officials and servants. And he will take your menservants and maidservants, and your best cattle and donkeys, and put them to his own use. He will take a tenth of your flocks, and you yourselves will become his slaves. When that day comes, you will beg for relief from the king you have chosen, but the Lord will not answer you on that day. Nevertheless, the people refused to listen to Samuel. No, they said, we must have a king over us. Then we will be like all the other nations, with a king to judge us, to go out before us, and to fight our battles. Samuel listened to all the words of the people and repeated them in the hearing of the Lord. Listen to their voice, the Lord said to Samuel. Appoint a king for them. Then Samuel told the men of Israel, everyone must go back to his city. This is God's word. I don't know about you, but I always think of Samuel as a priest. It is true that he served in that role, you can see 1 Samuel 7:10. But the Bible speaks of him more as a judge. Think guys like Samson, Gideon, and other characters from the book of Judges. And the Bible speaks of Samuel more like them than he does as a priest. See 1 Samuel 7:15, where he's called a leader. Although he attempted to install his sons as judges, according to chapter 8, verses 1 and 2, they failed morally, according to verse 3 of chapter 8, and were rightly rejected by the people in verses 4 and 5 of 1 Samuel 8. So Samuel was Israel's final judge. After him, kings took over. Samuel was also Israel's best judge, even though he and Deborah were the only non-military judges. The quality that Samuel and Deborah shared was spiritual. They feared God and judged justly as a result. Yet, godly as he was, Samuel's own sons used their position as leaders for personal gain rather than to serve God's people. Instead of becoming a spiritual dynasty then, Israel continued the same cycle of deliverance in one generation and disobedience in the next. One thing we've learned in the past 3 chapters of 1 Samuel is that God did not need a military leader to defend himself or his people. Although God had decreed that going into battle would be the usual way that Israel secured and defended the land promised to them, their military successes were secured by God himself. He kept his promise to fight for them, as we can see in 1 Samuel 7 through 12. Yet, despite God's supernatural work on their behalf, Israel did not ask him for another godly judge like Samuel. They asked for, and indeed insisted on, a king, as we saw in chapter 8, verse 6, and verses 19 through 20 of chapter 8 as well. Note their reasons for wanting a king. They said, then we will be like all the other nations, with a king to lead us and to go out before us and to fight our battles. I've heard people emphasize the first phrase, then we will be like all the other nations, and warn against wanting to be like the world. But I think the key phrase is the next one, with a king to lead us and to go out before us and fight our battles. Remember that God had told Samuel that their desire for a king was a rejection of him, of God as their king. In verse 7. God had shown himself more than capable of protecting and providing victory for his people if they followed his word, obeyed his leaders like Moses, Joshua, Samuel, and so on, and believing his promise to go before them if they fought in faith. God was more than able, as he showed again and again, to care for them and to fight for them if they did these things. Although Samuel spelled out for Israel the high costs of having a human king in verses 10 through 18 of chapter 8, Israel chose to pay dearly for one to do the dirty work instead of believing God and fighting based on his promises. We have the same kind of problem, frankly. God has given each one of us as believers His Word, His Spirit, and His church. 2 Peter 1:3 says, His divine power has given us everything we need for a godly life through our knowledge of Him who called us. Again, that's 2 Peter chapter 1, verse 3 from the NIV. But how often do we want someone else to fight our spiritual battles for us? Our parents, our spouse, our elder, some devotional writer, or someone else? Yes, we need leadership. And all the people I mentioned in the previous sentence can and should provide spiritual leadership for us. But that's all they can do for us. Consider this. I've always thought that people need to be in God's Word daily. That idea is not remotely unique to me. And you knew that already if you've been a Christian for any length of time. But it's easy to lose our way, to develop habits that crowd out our Bible reading, or just to be overwhelmed with the task of finding a Bible reading plan. I know how that is because I've lived it myself, so I created this devotional plan. Every day it arrives in your inbox. All you have to do is click on the link and read the passages. And if you don't want to read all the chapters, you can just read the one that I'm reading out loud for you and just listen to that. And I write enough to hopefully give you something to think about in terms of what the passage means and how it might apply to our lives. I do this because, as your pastor or as a pastor who cares about the spiritual growth of people, I want to provide you with some tools that can help you grow. That's my role as a leader, to give you tools to help you. But I can't come over to your house and read the passage to you. Actually, I can do it by video, but I can't do it in person. And I can't make you click on the link in your email and watch these videos or listen to these or read them yourself. I can't make you think about it either, and I can't force conviction of sin on you. I also can't force you to obey what the Word says. Sometimes, though, people seem to think that I should. They seem to think that I have some magic power that can make them live a holy life. They think I should be calling them if they don't come to church. Or they sometimes seem to think that my words or my presence or my prayers can cause them to do something that they don't want to do. It doesn't work like that. God has given you everything you need to develop into a godly man or a godly woman. He will do some of the work for you, purging and purifying your desires through conviction of sin and causing you to realize areas where you still need to grow through trials and discipline. God brings those things into our lives, discipline, trials, conviction, to do some of the work of growing us. But He's promised us that we can overcome sin by the new nature He's planted in us. See 1 John 2, 1-6 for that. It takes faith to believe that promise of God, and then obedience to God's Word to make it happen. You can look all you want for someone outside of you, but only you can walk with God. So are you walking with the Lord? Are you using this tool and other tools to help you in your walk with the Lord? But are you doing it? Are you doing the work of growing in Christ-likeness? Think about that today, and I'll see you next time. May God bless you. I hope you have a great day today.